Hey everyone, John here. In today's video, I want to show you guys the only tool that you need to sharpen your knives. Trust me, this is the only sharpener that I use, and it does everything that I need. Aside from garden tools, it is a good idea to maybe have a different garden tool sharpener, you know, like a file or something like that, or maybe a landscape puck or some other stone that you don't mind getting dinged up and knocked around a little bit. But for your knives, kitchen knives, pocket knives, if you're looking for something that will put a keen edge on it and you don't want to invest in a bunch of stones, this is a really good middle ground for you guys. Now, I know some of you guys that are into knives like your systems that go all the way up to 8,000, 10,000 grit, those Japanese water stones, or maybe you've got a set of DMT stones that go up to a few thousand grit, and those are great. They're really expensive though, and for someone like me, I do woodworking as a hobby. I don't want to spend a couple $100s on a system that'll wear out in, say, 3 or 4 years. They might last a little longer for that where I do it as a hobby, but I do sharpen my tools where I do hand tool work. I do sharpen my tools quite often, several times in a single woodworking session. So I wanted something that would last a long time, but would also be inexpensive. And so what I settled on was the Norton India stone. And you know, my relationship with this stone goes way back. Now this is a new one, and I purchased this for myself, but my dad had one. And I don't know when he got it, maybe back in the 60s or 70s, somewhere along that line. But he purchased that stone, and he had it his whole life. And I got to grow up using that to sharpen my pocket knife, and I got really good results off of it, and I remembered that. And when he passed away, my brother got it, and he still has it to this day, and he still uses it. So I wanted one of my own, so I ordered the 8-inch version. And this one, it's not made in the USA anymore, it's made in Mexico, which I was kind of disappointed about, but you know, it's still a fantastic stone. The grit on it, the particle size is very consistent. You know, with a lot of the cheap stones, they don't do a really good job filtering out and getting a consistent size of grit. So as you're sharpening, you might be working it down, working your edge down. You run your fingernail across maybe the edge, or how you check for burrs on your knife to see if you've gotten a burr off. You may find that, well, there's a burr there still. So you'll sharpen it some more, and you'll do it, and you'll find, well, the burr moved. And then you'll do it again, well, that burr's gone, but there's another burr here. And what's going on is you've got an inconsistent grit, and there's a large particle somewhere in the stone that is putting a nick in your blade every time you run it across. So if you get a decent stone and invest in one like this, you don't have to worry about that. Trust me, this is a buy it for life kind of stone. I saw how long my dad's lasted. Growing up, we used this stone for all tasks related to sharpening. So we used it for putting the final edge on an axe after we had filed it, or we used it for sharpening pocket knives or kitchen knives. It was used for everything. And, you know, it never once, I don't think he ever flattened the thing or tried to flatten the thing. This thing's very hard. The material is very, it doesn't wear like a water stone does. This is an oil stone, and it's very hard. So I don't think we ever had to actually flatten the stone out, and it still did a pretty good job. Now, by the time it was the age that it was, between my brother and I not quite knowing that you had to oil the thing, and we tried using water in it instead, the thing clogged up a little bit, so it was pretty slow to cut. But after knowing how to use these things properly, I can tell you it's a fantastic tool. It served us well still growing up, and now it serves me even better. So I'll go ahead and let you guys see the stone. I'll take it out of the box. I'll go back to the table there, let you guys see it in action, let you guys see what it can do on a really dull knife. Alright, so let's take a look at the knife that I'm going to be sharpening with this stone. This is a Kershaw Oh So Sweet. It's a great design. The metal's soft, it's kind of crap. It's 8CR13 MOV. It doesn't have great edge retention. It's got really good rust resistance though, and it's a great everyday carry knife, and I feel like it pairs really well with this stone because, well, I want to be able to get this knife sharp pretty quick because it has to be sharpened fairly often. So it's nice to have a stone that puts such a quick edge on this knife. So let's go ahead and let you look at it and how it's been used in the current condition of it. You can see it's pretty dirty, and you'll notice that my hands are also a little bit dirty. I've been doing some body work on a vehicle today using some spray foam just to fill in some rust holes and things like that along the rocker panel along the bottom of a vehicle, or the rocker panels. So you can see that I've got a little bit of that spray foam sort of stuck on my knife there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that off and let you just go ahead and see that this thing is going to be indeed dull. So what I was doing what happened while I was doing that is, because I'm doing body work, I've got little pieces of metal and things like that, and rusty metal and things, jagged pieces hanging down from the rocker body. I'm trying to trim the foam, so I'm constantly sticking my knife into it and I'm sawing into the metal. So this thing is, the edge on this thing is annihilated. So we'll go ahead. I'm not worried about dulling it in this case because it's already about as dull as it can get. So I'm just going to get this stuff off of here. This is why it's so nice to have a locking back knife for. I like my traditional folders. I've got several of them. No real nice ones besides a single case trapper. But I do like, or a mini trapper. But I do like my folders still. Traditional folders. I think they're pretty. And I get more compliments on those than any other knife. Whenever I do get a compliment. Draws a little less attention too whenever you're cleaning your fingernails in a restaurant. Actually, I take that back. They don't necessarily draw that much attention, these don't, because people are used to them now. But anyway, let's go ahead and pull this out of the box and let you see it. This is a two-sided stone. I believe it's 150 on the bottom. You can see some sawdust here. I use this for sharpening my hand planes in my wood shop. Alright, so this is the 150 side on the bottom, I believe it is. And then we've got a 340 on the top, right here. So I'll be starting on the 150 side because this thing is so dull. Now, you can buy cheaper stones that are 120 and 240. And if that works for you, that's good. My experience has been that a lot of those are really soft and they wear out real quick. You can get, there are some of them that are made relatively well, but I like this better. I don't know why they had to put this thing on here with a top that is impossible to get off. It's got a child-proof lid on it, so it tries to slip out while you're trying to open it. I like to use baby oil. It's just a thin mineral oil. I don't like actual mineral oil on these because mineral oil is a little too thick and it tends to sort of clog up the stone. Baby oil works really good. Now the great thing about this stone is it comes pre-saturated with oil, and they must use a really heavy oil because my experience has been that when you soak these things in oil, the oil just falls out with gravity over time. So they must have used something like a grease or a petroleum jelly or something like that and melted it into it because the oil stays on top really easy and it doesn't need that much. Just gonna wipe that off. All right, that's a better place to wipe it off. So let's go ahead. Let's let you verify this thing is dull. Okay, there's no shaving of hairs, anything like that going on. Get this side. This side is cuttable. And it just rips. Actually, it did cut a little bit there. Guys, this thing's dull. You saw what I did to it earlier. Anyway. Now, one of the great things about this stone, we're just going to do this in real time and let you see how quick this thing is. One of the great things about this stone is that it works really quick, and it's really hard. It's a hard stone. This is not a good surface to do this on. I usually don't sharpen here. I usually have a sharpening station in my workshop, and I've got a rag that I sit down on a table that is natural bare wood, so it grips really well. And this is a finished office desk I built, so it's not wanting to stick as well. We're just going to do a few strokes on here. Actually, we'll just go ahead and we'll just do this back and forth. I usually like to support the blade like this, just to get consistent pressure from edge to tip. But because this thing's wanting to move on me, I'll just do it like this. Okay, getting the wire edge, starting to get one. We'll take it until we get a full wire edge. I think we're ready to switch sides. quite a bit of material taken off of that. I probably sharpened it a little more than I needed to on that side. But I know that I got down to fresh edge. Go ahead and flip it over. We'll oil up this side right here. My camera's about ready to overheat, so the video may cut off in just a second. I'll have to cut it back on, and I'll start recording again if that happens. We'll go ahead and we'll do this side. Off the extra. Alright. And this stone has such a nice feedback. There we go. Now I can start worrying about getting that consistent pressure. Nice edge on it. If it cuts off, I'll go get a rag and stick it under this thing just to keep it from scooting around so much. Alright, let's check it out and see how it is. I can tell it's already going to shave hairs. Yeah, it's popping hairs just fine. It's razor sharp. What I'm going to do from here, what you'd normally want to do after that, after you're done with this, is you would wipe all the oil off. The metal shavings will come off with the oil. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set this in the box, so it kind of sideways, because I don't want to soak my box in oil yet, or ever. Go ahead and we'll just start running this along a leather strop. And this leather strop, man, I missed my workbench for doing this. I still have it, it's just where I'm trying to film, I'm doing it in here. My workbench, I've got dogs set up on it so that when I can just pull it towards me and get on the other side and pull it towards me another way. And it just keeps everything in place better. Plus, where it's bare wood on bare wood, it likes to stick a little better than a polyurethane surface like this. We'll go ahead, make this work. And over the time, this strop doesn't have any stropping compound in it. Over time though, the slurry off of your stone will impregnate the leather strop, and it too will sharpen your knife and just sort of polish the edge a little bit. And as we continue to do this, you'll see we're going to get a very keen, sharp edge. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's fill this. And that is very sharp. Let me go ahead and zoom you in a little more here. See if I can keep you from seeing my skibbies. Get you in focus. There we go. So I'll let you see. I'm about to give myself tool pattern baldness here, or knife pattern baldness. You can see that it just plows right through it. I mean, this thing, honestly, you hit this thing on the strop like this, and you can get it in about 3 or 4 minutes so sharp it'll split a hair, just like you could if you got it off of a 4,000 or 5,000 grit stone. This thing will get it crazy sharp doing it like that. Okay, so the camera shut off in the middle of recording. I don't know if I got the paper cutting or not on there, so I'll go ahead and let you guys see that in case you missed it. So we'll go ahead and let you see. So I just came off the strop, stropped it for maybe 40 strokes, something like that. We'll just go ahead and we'll do this side. This has got a jagged edge on it. It'll make it pretty hard to do. You can just see how consistent the grit is on this stone. If it was an inconsistent grit, you would have little burrs and things like that on the end, on the edge of the blade. But it's very smooth. It puts a very smooth, keen edge. Now, let's not rush through. Let's just go nice and slow. Very sharp, very keen edge off of this thing. And you can literally, you don't have to have a strap block. You can just use the leather belt that you have on your pants right now. I think you guys get the point. It is very sharp. So basically that's pretty much it. It's that quick, that simple. Like I said, I actually over sharpened this thing. I didn't have to spend as much time on that as I did. And you know, you don't have to use the stone every time your knife gets dull. A lot of times, if it's just from regular use, just light use, sometimes it's just the edge rolling over a little bit. So you can just take your leather strop out or use your leather belt and just strap it on your belt, and it'll straighten that edge right back out. And you'll be surprised, about 50 or 60% of the time, some people say as much as 90% of the time, I don't know about that, depending on how you use the blade and the steel it is. But about half the time, you can usually bring most of that edge back just by hitting it on a leather strop, and you'll get those razor sharp results. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave it a like down below, and I'm going to get all this cleaned up and everything. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and see you later. Thanks.